So, everybody, welcome to our latest podcast series. This is going to be an opportunity for parents to meet our coaches, learn a little bit more about their backgrounds, and hopefully get a better understanding of the people who are responsible for not only developing your children, but coaching them at the same time for their sports. So, Steve, welcome along.
Hi.
Hopefully, Steve's not going to mention too many times the fact that Fulham put five past us, my team Forest, in December, but we'll try and limit that as much as possible.
I feel I don't need to say that at all now because you brought it up. I will mention that we put three past Bournemouth the other week, which
Oh, that
was
is,
very enjoyable.
you can mention that as many times as you want, Steve. Great. Okay. So, Steve, I just want to start off with asking you a bit about your journey into coaching and your time with Foundation Sports. If you could just tell me a little bit about that, please.
Um, I've always loved football and always quite liked the idea of coaching, but it was something I never got round to. And then when my children were playing Little Down Juniors, I ended up, as many parents do, taking charge of a team there and overseeing them. And then with my youngest son, Dan, him and a group of his mates didn't have a team, and there was a lot of them that felt they were ready to have a go stepping up and joining a Sunday team. So we formed one. There was no team in that age group at the club my oldest son, Peter, played for. So we started a team. That would have been around about under 10s. And I managed that team then through to under 16s, doing my FA level one and my FA level two coaching badges. Um, and then round about the time that was coming towards its end, I was looking around for something to do work wise and thought, well, I'm kind of feel I know what I'm doing on this coaching thing now, so I'll see if I can find work doing that, and that's where you came in.
There we go. And how's your time with Foundation Sports been, Steve? How have you found it's developed you as a coach and the kind of experiences that you've had with Foundation Sports?
I've loved it, and I'm not just saying that because you pay my wages, but I've never felt I was the right kind of coach to be coaching at elite level. I wasn't someone who was going to get a job working in a club's academy or anything like that. Um, Equally, my background, my first 10 years or so after I did my degree, I worked as a youth worker. So I was used to working with young people. Um, and I'm far more interested in coaching at the grassroots level, the accessible level, the kids who aren't going to be professionals but just want to enjoy their football and to get a bit better at it. And I think that is perfect for an organisation like Foundation Sports.
Yeah, amazing. It's been 2 years, has it been now, or just over?
Yes,
Yeah,
just over.
yeah,
I
and
think last week was the second anniversary of
oh,
when you actually offered me the
oh,
job.
we should have thrown a big party for it, Steve. What a shame. And so, how would you feel the experiences and lessons that you've had in your coaching career has had a profound effect on children that you're working with? What sort of impact do you think you have on their lives?
Hope I've had a positive one. I know, thinking back specifically to the team that I ran, there was a number of boys in that team who came to us having been a little bit burnt by their experience at other clubs. Um, Maybe managers who were a little bit more focused on results than on what what's good for the kids and the kids' enjoyment. Um, and there are boys who were in my team who learned to love football again, having been on the verge of just giving up on it. And and that's hugely satisfying.
Mm.
There was one lad who, I won't say his name, who came to us, and I mentioned to another adult that I knew whose son had played with him at a previous club that he'd joined us, and he said, "Oh, have you got him to run yet?" In a kind of, "Yeah, that's not going to happen" sort of way. And it took a while, but actually that lad ended up one of the hardest working players in our team, and a really valuable member of the team. But that change in attitude came, and he obviously had learned something, from his time playing football with us about applying himself. And I think just had more confidence that he wasn't going to get shouted at if he tried something and it didn't come off. So yeah, to make a difference like that is hugely satisfying.
That's why we do it, to be honest with you, is to
Yeah.
make an impact on these children's lives. And I think it's often forgotten that enjoyment is the foundation to
Yeah.
developing children and making them not only a better player but a better person growing up. We've got such an impact on these children's lives, and I think that's often forgotten when coaches sometimes put their ego first, I think, and forget enjoyment
Yes.
and focus too much on the elite side to it. But as many professionals say now, the most important thing is enjoyment, and that's what they can focus on. I think it was Jude Bellingham said that. He got interviewed recently about it, and he said, what sort of advice would you give?" And it was just keep enjoying it, just keep doing that, and that's the most important thing. As soon as that goes, that's it. You're not going to get anything more out of that child.
Yeah.
Continue
And
playing.
I think not to take away the value of the coach,
Mm.
but the best coach is kids playing the game. And if they're enjoying it, they'll keep coming back and playing, and they'll get the opportunity to improve. Whereas if you make it such a miserable experience that they don't want to do it anymore, then no matter how good you are at getting across technique or tactics or skills or whatever, they're going to stop. So they're not going to improve.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, but it's about the kids. We are their coaches. They're not our team, and I think that's a really important mindset to have.
Yeah, exactly. I still remember coaches and teachers from when I was a kid, and the most impactful on me, negatively or positively. You do remember it, and it does have an impact on how you kind of develop as a child yourself, you know. So what would you say is your most memorable moment being a coach?
In terms of with the kids,
Yeah, I'd say
the
with
impact on.
even with your son's teams, has there been a moment which you've really remembered and has stuck with you?
I'll give you I'll give you one actually. A different kid from my Sunday team to the one that I was talking about before, but someone who came to us in a very similar,
Yeah.
burnt out from his previous experience way. And one of his early matches for us, it was partway through the second half, and he asked if he could be subbed off because he was just knackered. He was just too tired, and he asked if he could come off, and that was fine. So we subbed him off, and I said, "Oh, are you all right?" And he said, "Yeah. I just too tired. I can't, I can't do anymore." And then he just looked at me and said, "Sorry." And I was like, "Why are you apologizing? You did you give everything you had?" He's like, "Yeah." And you've literally run yourself into the ground until you can't run anymore. It's not something to apologize for. And there was a look on his face that he wasn't used to actually being treated like that.
Yeah.
He was used to the manager, well, if you're too tired, you're no use to me anymore. How dare you? And that that insight into how some people coach was a little bit frightening, but also seeing that lad then go on to become one of our best players and one of the really, really valuable. Well, I mean, all of them were valuable, but you know what I mean. One of the players that others look to on the pitch to dig us out of things was great.
Yeah, you draw back and as a kid on early experiences to kind of improve when you're in those difficult situations in a match, and what you did for that child kind of, I'm sure he remembers that, like we said about children remembering when they have positive and negative impacts on their in their journey into football and into sport especially. And I'm sure he remembered that. Like I said, I remember negative and positive coaches, and he will certainly remember that when he's going into adulthood as well as playing games now. I mean,
There's
how old is he now?
He would be the same age as my youngest, so he'd be 17 now.
Yeah. So
But I was going to say, there's a cliche that I heard on a coaching course once, which is a cliche, but I think it's also true, which is they won't care what you know until they know that you care. And
yeah.
I think that's a really important maxim for coaches.
Exactly. It's like you said earlier, you're their coach. It's not the other way around, it's very, very good way to look at it, I feel, certainly. So Steve, moving on to other aspects of your life, you have
Mm.
a published book, which kind
Yes.
of doing really well. So talk to me a little bit about your book.
Um, I've I've always loved writing, and after I finished doing youth work, I worked as a writer and editor for several years. And about 15 years ago, I started writing fiction, initially writing children's fiction. And then more recently, a few years ago, I moved over to writing for adults. And after 15 years, someone finally said yes, they would publish something I wrote. If I was better at marketing, I would have thought to have a copy of the book here that I could hold up in front of the camera. Oh, and as if by magic,
Very
there we
good
have a
idea.
copy of the book, Dead Man Singing by Steve Couch. Um, it's the story of a has-been rock star who fakes his death to get his record selling and then goes out on the road as his own tribute act. And it's people who have read it have described it as a page turner. So I feel I can say that it's not just me, but it's an accessible read. And there's a lot of thought provoking stuff in there as well as just being a I hope cracking good story. But yeah, the reviews have been very kind, and
Yeah.
I've been really chuffed with how that's going.
And it relates,
So
sorry, Steve, it
sorry, go
relates
on.
a lot to your music taste as well, doesn't it? I think there's a few things in there about the Beatles from memory.
Yeah, the Paul McCartney crops up as an incidental character. Lots there's the music plays a really central part in the narrative of the book. Whenever there is songs mentioned in the book, they're there for a purpose, and they comment on the action, they offer insight into character, or they drop hints as to where the story might go. If you're a music fan, there's a whole extra layer that you'll enjoy. If you're not a music fan, there's the central story of the main character Dave and the people he meets. There's a lot of ins and outs and developments that hopefully will get you drawn in. That's what readers have said has happened to them, and that includes readers who aren't music fans. But if you are a music fan, especially of 70s rock or late 80s pop, there's lots there that you'll enjoy.
I think my dad will quite enjoy it, to be honest, Steve. Yeah. I think
Excellent.
I'll send him a book at some point.
I think you
Like,
should,
like
frankly.
reading as well, so I don't know why I've not done that yet. Amazing, Steve. So, do you feel like there's any influence on sport that you've had in your background or in your coaching history that's influenced part of the book, or perhaps further books?
Um, I think with this book, one of the big themes in the book is second chances, which kind of chimes with what we were just talking about
Yeah.
with some of the lads from my football team and some of the people who come along to Foundation Sports who don't play for a Sunday team, but who just want to enjoy playing football and giving that opportunity. My second book, which is due out in July, is called Foul and Fair, and that is actually set in the world of kids grassroots football.
Oh, amazing.
A rivalry between two managers, one of whom is very much the win at all costs variety, and one of whom has always been one of the good guys, but who gets tempted to take take things to a little bit more of an extreme. And it's him wrestling with moral dilemmas of how far will he go to finally get one over on his rival.
Nice. And
But
then,
yeah, but again, it's similar, very accessible, page turning contemporary fiction with something to say.
And did you say that's getting published in July? Did I hear that right?
July, yes. We publication date is 28th of July, which falls nicely between the end of the World Cup and the start of the next domestic season. So perfect to get you in the mood ready for the new season.
That's it, exactly.
And there's even a mention of Nottingham Forest in it, Josh.
Oh, Steve, that is amazing. We need as many positive, I hope it's positive, mentions as possible. So yeah, I do appreciate that. Being possibly the more famous team out of our two teams. What do you think?
Oh, I don't know that I would go that far. I mean, we are the oldest professional club in London,
Yeah,
and the only club in London where Pele ever played at their home ground.
yeah, you're teaching me something now, Steve. Yeah, I never knew that.
I I went on a tour of Craven Cottage with my elder son Peter just recently, and in one of the rooms I got loads of photos and stuff up on the walls, and the tour guide pointed out one of them was a photo of Pele playing at the cottage. His club side Santos played a friendly in 1970, and he said, and there you see a photograph of Pele playing at the cottage, and in front of the photograph is a pair of boots which aren't Pele's boots, but which look like they might have been.
So yeah. That's yeah. Well, which son was that with you?
We're, sorry?
Is it Pete who was with you? Your son Pete.
Peter, yes, who also coaches at Foundation Sports in the holidays when he's home from uni.
We're churning out those couches, aren't we? And finally, Steve, just before we go, I just wanted to talk a bit about passion project of yours, which I know you've been doing alongside your work at Foundation Sports, is your Man versus Fat. So if you
Yes.
talk to me a little bit about that as well, as it's something I find quite inspiring and a really alternative way to find perhaps dads who are watching this or parents to get involved and try and shift some of that dad weight, which I'm finding is piling on me at the moment. So yeah, talk to us a bit about that, mate.
I mean, I've been doing that for slightly longer than I've been doing Foundation Sports. I started that in the January of 2022, and I started Foundation Sports in February of that year. Um, Basically, Man versus Fat, it's a national organisation, and I coach the Bournemouth club. There, it's basically Weight Watchers for blokes based around football. So it's a competitive football league. We put people in teams, and they have a half-hour game every week, and there's winners and losers and a league table. But the league table and the results on the night are based partly on what happens on the pitch and partly on the scales. Every two players for your team that lose weight is another goal for your team. So it's possible you can get narrowly beaten on the night, but then win anyway because your team has done better on weight loss. And what that does is it takes the natural competitiveness that an awful lot of blokes have, especially where football is concerned, and it channels that into weight loss. And you get people saying, "Oh, I've tried really hard this week. I wasn't going to, but then I thought, oh, I've got to lose weight. I've got to do it for the boys. I can't let the team down." And I've been amazed in the 2 years I've done it at some of the transformations I've seen. There's guys who have lost 20%, 25%, 30% of their initial body weight. And that takes time. That's not a quick fix. One of the things that I most like about Man versus Fat, it's not looking for people to do a massive binge diet, crash diet, that then as soon as they stop, the weight comes back on again. It's about steady, sustainable, realistic change and changing lifestyle so that when you stop doing Man versus Fat, the weight doesn't come back on again. And several of the blokes who we have said to me that Man versus Fat has literally changed their lives. We've got numerous people at the club who have now reached a healthy body weight. So it's not even that they were very overweight and now they're just a little bit overweight. They're now not overweight at all. And that Yeah, that's amazing. We've just started up a new season, but there are still a few spaces left. If people want to Google Man versus Fat Bournemouth, they'll find us online and they can sign up there, and they'll have the pleasure of being weighed by me every Friday evening. Which, what
What more
what
could
could
you
be
ask
more
for
enjoyable?
on a Friday evening? That's what you want, isn't it, Steve? That's what dreams are made of.
I spend my Friday evening weighing fat blokes now, and have done for the last 2 years. But it doesn't feel like work. There's great banter with all the blokes. It's an incredibly supportive community. Um, I mean, we do in the last year collectively, the lads have lost about 85 stone. Um,
So, yeah,
which, or put another way, they've lost the equivalent of a full 11-a-side team of Kylie Minogues.
yeah, there we go. Do you know what? Since you described it just then, I can see it perfectly now. I've got it right now. Amazing, Steve. It sounds like you're doing such a lot of good work in the community, mate. Not just with children, but with adults as well. And yeah, long may it continue. So I do really appreciate your time here today.
Thank you.
No problem. And hopefully we can do another one when your second book comes out in July.
Would love to do that. Any opportunity to promote the book is always gratefully accepted.
No worries. And in the description, I'll put links to your book and also a link to the Man v Fat as well. If you want to send that over to me, we'll get it down there so anyone watching this can hopefully access it quite.
Fantastic. Yeah.
But no problem, Steve. I won't take up any more of your time. Thank you for doing this first podcast for me. It's not something I'm
My
naturally
pleasure.
at, but yeah, hopefully there'll be more to come. So thank you very much, Steve. I've enjoyed having a chat with you and hope to see you soon.
Thanks a lot, Josh.
Thanks, Steve.
Cheers.
Bye.